that the new leader of the Scottish Liberal Democrats is Alex Cole Hamilton. He's not coming out just yet. As we all know, Alex has a bit of a flair for these type of things, for drama, which I first discovered the first time I met him, which was 2011. We were both on the stage in Perth at the party conference, as we were up-and-coming stars of the party for the 2011 election. That went well. In between then, we've been to various different parts of the country, done various different things. We've laughed at things, we've argued about things, and I once, I'm ashamed to say, made Alex cry. It was one of our political weekend things at Y Boston that the party does. Very late at night, wine may have been taken, we got to chatting about things. And we got to talking, of all things, about the First World War and Thiepval, and about the fact that my daughter had just been to Thiepval. Before I knew where I was, Alex and I were sitting crying about the Commonwealth War Graves Commission and what they did, because it just meant so much to us, what they did and what they were doing. And that's the thing about Alex that I think is going to be important in this next phase for our party. He's not just someone who's in this because of politics, he's in this because of what he believes. And it will be his vision, his views, his direction that will take the party forward into the next phase. He'll be the fourth leader that I've known. Now, I know a lot of you find that difficult to believe, because everybody thinks that only Willie Rennie has ever been leader of the Scottish Liberal Democrats. But when I gave up my BBC impartiality and joined way back, Nicholl Stephen was the leader, and then we had Tavish, and then Willie kept us going for 10 years, and now that chalice has passed to Alex. But it's not just Alex, it's all of us. We all have a job to do in supporting Alex. We all have a job to do in getting the message out there. And we all have a job to do in ensuring that this next phase of our history is a strong, positive one. And when people ask us why we're Liberal Democrats, I don't know about you, but I get confused about that. Because I'm not a Liberal Democrat because we believe in the European Union and it was the right place for the UK. We do believe that, but that's not why I'm a Liberal Democrat. We believe in social justice. That's not why I'm a Liberal Democrat. And I'm not a Liberal Democrat because I think that every child should have the best possible opportunity to fulfill their potential. No. It's because I believe all of those things that I am a Liberal Democrat. You don't become a Liberal Democrat. You don't choose to become a Liberal Democrat. You are a Liberal. It's what you are. It's what you believe. And Alex is the one who's going to lead us forward in portraying that to the Scottish people, winning their support again, and making sure that we change Scottish politics. And so, in doing that, we're going to need the help and support of a younger generation. Old fogies like me are all fine and well, but the younger generation hold the future. So to hear from the first of them now is someone that I first met in the Scottish Parliament with David Green, which you'll all know was a bad influence. But I realised that this was someone who was going to be important in the future. And part of that grasping of opportunities as they come up now and taking us forward. So, the first speaker today has come all the way from Orkney. It's Jack Norquoy.
Thank you, Christine. I wasn't quite sure how I was going to be introduced, but I was going to say I'm not Alex Cole Hamilton. I promise you, he is coming. But like I say, this party is about all of us, and Alex was keen that we represent that today. Now, as Christine said, this morning I was in my home of Orkney, a place where for over 70 years Liberals have won. I'm standing here now in Edinburgh Western, where in May Alex won the most votes of any MSP in the history of the Scottish Parliament. And while these places are formidably Liberal, it is also true that in my travels today, I have been in half of all our seats in Holyrood. I was born in 1999, at a time when Liberals led Scotland into a new millennium, helping to deliver the Scottish Parliament and begin building that dream of a better nation. Back then, to travel through all Liberal heartlands would have felt as long as it does today for the SNP, let's admit it, to build a ferry. However, in all seriousness, it will be by winning like that again we can deliver more for the people of our islands again. Now, a local chap to the islands, and folks in here might have heard of him, a chap called Joe Grimmond, once asked whether we Liberals can kindle again in this country the flame of political interest. Today, we are charged with that. We are asking that same question. And Joe went on to revive the Liberal torch and inspire the next generation of Liberals. Today, we are charged with that same task. And it is time to rekindle that Liberal flame of political interest. And just like how Orkney looks towards a future invested in new technologies, we too as a party need to inspire a new generation of voters. Because in the election just passed in May, we witnessed a new generation of voters who had not voted in the referendums of 2014 and 2016, but yet the election was dominated by those arguments of the past. We do not need to splinter as a society into yes or no to have hope in the future of this nation. We do not have to accept the tiring nationalism that polarises our politics as our only choice as a nation. They offer us nothing but a lick of paint on rotten boards, and as it's become evident today, that's green paint. Or all they offer us is painted windows on a rusting hull. Now, we know that these times are difficult, often perplexing, and we know too that the prospects of our communities and our young people are not where they should be. Standards in schools, hospitals, social care slipping. Economic and employment growth stagnant. A housing ladder missing half the rungs. And it's all now been worsened by the pandemic that we've endured this last year. But our challenge as a party is not to simply relay these problems that we know exist. Our challenge as a party is to convey our answer to those challenges. And if times are difficult, we'll let them be full of opportunity too. Because just like how the new technologies in Orkney are sending ripples of progress through our waters, let us as a party send forth ripples of hope to our voters to offer a better way, a new hope for a generation like mine. Because young people in Orkney, they should see a career there, not only here. They should see their own home there, not somewhere here. And young people in Edinburgh, they should see a future that they can believe in and not fear, and see their potential realised and not restricted. Our answer is our liberalism. It is shaped by opportunity. It is underpinned by equality and community. Because human rights is nothing if it is not universal. Community, because we know decisions are better made closer to where they impact. And because we know that the challenges we face as a planet demand global solutions. We know that, whether that's environmental policy and tackling the climate crisis, or whether it be our foreign policy, because we are witnessing right now the effects of isolationism in Afghanistan. We are the internationalists in our political spectrum, and we are internationalists without any small print. And we achieve all of this by utilising our strengths today, not generating division tomorrow. We do that by not just winning here, but everywhere. Above all, what Liberals will offer is ideas in our leadership and quality in our actions. Because let's face it, we know that's what this country is calling out for. Responsible government and leadership that we can trust. This is our Liberal offer to you. And I am so happy that Alex Cole-Hamilton will help us lead that and deliver it to the people of Scotland again. So come and be part of something new. Thank you.
Told you it was good. Now, it's 4 years since I became the MP for Edinburgh West. I haven't mentioned that yet, but I am the MP for Edinburgh West. That night, Alex and Kevin and everybody else on the team, Louise, who's here, Hal, everybody, Gregan, that was a great night for us. But there was one tiny thing that night which we all left feeling bad about. And that was when we got back to Clifton Terrace to open the champagne. There was a recount in North East Fife. And we all sat there and watched it. 2 votes. If ever there was anything to remind you to knock those last doors the day before polling, it was the result in 2017 in North East Fife. But you know what? They didn't let it go. And 2 years later, in 2019, one of the high points of that night was in seeing our next speaker elected in North East Fife to put that right. So, it gives me a very special pleasure to be able to introduce to you as our next speaker, the MP for North East Fife, Wendy Chamberlain.
Thank you. I am so excited to be here with you all today because today is a new beginning with a new generation of Scottish Liberal Democrats exemplified by the fantastic Jack Norquoy under our new leader, Alex Cole-Hamilton. I've been a member of this party for only 6 years and I always joke that I joined crying at Nick Clegg on the telly in the aftermath of the general election result of 2015. That was the start of my journey. And if you had told me that I would be an MP for the party within 5 years of joining, I would have laughed very loudly. But that is what this party does. It welcomes with open arms. Having served in the police until 2011, I could have joined the party then. After all, the Scottish Liberal Democrats had always had my vote. But watching Nick Clegg and hearing the core Liberal values he espoused, it hit me. Scotland couldn't afford to lose these values or the opportunity to vote for representatives that held them. And that the Scottish Liberal Democrats needed more than my vote, they needed me and others to get involved. Autumn 2015, I find myself making my first contribution at a party conference, introducing my now dear friend, Willie Rennie, as he made his then leader's speech. And if it wasn't for him, I wouldn't be standing here today as the North East Fife representative at Westminster, and our party wouldn't be where it was without him, and looking forward to the next decade after his time at the helm. Across Scotland, where we have representation, whether at Council, Holyrood or Westminster, people see the benefit of having a Scottish Liberal Democrat representative. We work damn hard to get elected, knocking doors all year round, on the phones, for example, checking on the vulnerable during the early stages of the pandemic, and delivering those leaflets to get our message across as we need to as a smaller party. Because without those hard-working community campaigners, people like Alex, people like Willie, we can never deliver that change we want to see in Scotland. Liberal Democrats need the people of Scotland, and the people of Scotland need the Liberal Democrats. And I know sometimes it might feel we're small, but when we work together, we are a mighty force. And I saw that in my first campaign in 2016, helping get Willie elected in North East Fife, and also seeing Alex elected here in Edinburgh Western. And you all saw it just a couple of months ago in Chesham and Amersham, where the Liberal Democrats took out a chunk of that Tory blue wall. No other party is currently placed to do that. Too many people feel forgotten and ignored. They feel like no one is listening to them. That's certainly what I heard in the doors in Chesham and Amersham. And when we demonstrate how hard we work, people notice. We succeed. We never take you for granted. Alex's own history-making election result here in Edinburgh Western demonstrates that hard work is recognised and appreciated by those that we represent. Local people are the beating heart of our politics. That's why we campaigned so hard. Willie does, Alex does, and I will continue to do so in North East Fife and for North East Fife in Westminster. It's worth taking a minute to reflect on the overall makeup of our Westminster Parliamentary Party and the role that our Scottish MPs play within it. We're a third of the Parliamentary Party group. We're a strong voice in that group, and I can assure you we're no backwards at coming forwards. It means our English colleagues are well aware of what our policies mean for Scotland and other devolved administrations, as well as our close relationship with Alliance in Northern Ireland. We hold senior roles. Christine in Treasury, Alistair in Home Affairs, and the experience of Jamie Stone in Defence at this globally troubled time. No other UK party can say that. And we represent not a branch office, but a fully federal state party. We are the true advocates of devolution, not to further the cause of separation, but because we fundamentally believe in devolving power to where decisions can best be made, right to a local community level where that's appropriate. And we are European to our core. We've never shied away from advocating for the closest of relationships with our European neighbours, nor jettisoned or embraced that relationship when it simply seemed politically or electorally advantageous. But we need to offer an alternative, a positive alternative, because Scottish politics is stuck between a rock and a hard place. You've got two narrow nationalisms. They offer nothing. Each is obsessed not with improving people's lives. No one can look at this week's GERS figures and not appreciate the spending cuts and tax rises that would be required for Scotland were it to choose to leave the UK, but with preventing the other side from winning, and it's simply toxic. And it's been like this for a decade. You can feel it. This Scottish Government, regardless of the extraordinary nature of a COVID-19 election in May, is a government that's tired. What's been unfolding before our eyes over the last couple of years is 15 years of SNP centralisation and its agenda in health, education, justice, the lack of any coherent industrial strategy, the failure to deliver against the climate emergency agenda by reducing demand on fossil fuels or enabling people to access new technologies and jobs. Now, we might agree with SNP in their diagnosis. They're right, the old Westminster politics isn't working, but we are totally at odds with them over the cure. We want to tackle the problems of Scottish society, not simply blame them on Westminster. People politics, not grievance politics. Reducing inequality, not increasing division. And I know which vision I would rather have of the future. The vast majority of people that get involved with politics, members like ourselves, either as an activist or with ambitions of more, do it for the right reasons. And isn't that ultimately what politics is all about? Helping to improve the community in which you live and also the wider world. That's the vision we must offer, and that is what I'm confident Alex can deliver. A liberal future for Scotland, one of positivity and hope. We stand where the majority of people in Scotland stand. We're the new generation of Scottish Liberal Democrats, and now it is our time to take this party forward. That is our mission, and it's time to build Scotland's liberal future. Thank you.
I'm going to let you into a wee secret now about our next speaker.
Not you, Christy.
That makes a change.
Is the microphone actually on?
Yes, it is.
Should be. It is, yeah. It's just me whispering, which again is different. Is that better? Can you hear me now, Lynn? Okay. I shall wait. Okay? But I'll let you in on a secret. A wee secret. From a few years ago, it would have been the autumn of 2016. and I decided to move to Edinburgh. And I got a phone call. And if ever there's anyone you feel like blaming for me being the MP for Edinburgh West, it's our next speaker. Because he said to me, I'm going to tell you candidly, Christine, we need a candidate in Edinburgh West. But don't worry, you did reassure me there wasn't going to be an election shortly. There might be a by-election, but then that passed, and there was going to be 3 years before we had a general election. And then in the middle of the council election, Theresa May had a rush of blood to the head, and I became the candidate for Edinburgh West. It wasn't an easy campaign. It was probably the dirtiest campaign that any of us had ever come across in Scottish politics, not from our side. And it was a very difficult campaign for me personally, because in the middle of it, Callum died. But I got through that with the help of our next speaker and Alex and some others. And it's testament to him that wherever he goes in Scotland, success for the Liberal Democrats follows. I know he's going to play a big part, not just in today, but in where the party goes in future. And so, I am absolutely delighted to ask to come up and speak, Kevin Lang.
So, about 10 days ago, I got a phone call from Alex Cole-Hamilton. Now, this is not an infrequent event, but it was a conversation like we've never had before. Kevin, he says, if I'm fortunate enough to be chosen as party leader on the 20th of August, it would mean the world to me if you would come and speak at the announcement result. Can you do it? And I said to him, of course, Alex, you're my best friend. Of course I want to be there for you at this moment. But tell me, what's the format going to be? Who are the speakers? What role do you want me to have? And then, with all of the classic understatement that we associate with Alex Cole-Hamilton, he says to me, well, Kevin, Jack Norquoy is going to be speaking. And this is going to be Jack's Obama moment. He says, remember when Obama spoke for the first time at the Democratic National Convention? He says, well, this is Jack's Obama moment. And I said, wow, that sounds really exciting, Alex. So what about me? What role do you want me to have? And he paused and he said, well, do you remember when Pete Buttigieg rolled out his old high school classmates? That's you, he said. And I was like, right, so Jack's Obama and I'm Pete Buttigieg's old high school classmates. If ever there was something that told me that I was the future once, it was that. But here's the truth. I have known Alex for 20 years. I know him about as well as anybody. And I can tell you this, you will struggle to find a more decent person, and you will struggle to find a truer liberal than him. And so for the last 20 years, I've been proud to call him my best friend, but from today, I'm even more proud to call him my party leader. Now, I want to talk a little bit about the future, but before I do that, I want to say a little bit about the past. 4 years ago, I was elected for the first time to be a Liberal Democrat councillor here in the city of Edinburgh. Put simply, it's the best job I've ever had. The chance that you have to help people in their everyday lives, to take decisions that improve communities for the better, it's far greater than I thought would be the case before I was elected. And it's because of that that I want to see so many more Liberal Democrat councillors elected next year. Now, how wonderful a moment was it, exactly 7 days ago today, when Colin Aitken and Jill Tilt were both elected on the same day gaining seats and becoming the newest members of the Liberal Democrat councillor family. It was a terrific moment. But what I'm even more excited by is when I see the people who have already stood up, stepped forward, raised their hand to say, I want to win next year, and I want to be a Liberal Democrat councillor too. People like Desmond Booth up in Aberdeen, people like Joe Macaulay in Glasgow, Paul McGarry in East Kilbride, Odd Boubacar Calder in Dunfermline, and Sana Dykstra Downey right here in the city of Edinburgh. Absolutely fantastic candidates, and people who I think would make tremendous councillors and amazing representatives for their communities. But we're going to have to work hard for it, as we always do, just like Colin did to get his victory last week. But let's be crystal clear as a party. If we want to win at parliamentary level, then we're going to have to win in more places at local level. That's how we turn the disappointment of this year into success next year. And you know what? That's the attitude that I admire most in my friend Alex. I saw it in 2007, his tenacity, when he narrowly lost. Did he give up? No. He carried on. I saw it again in 2011 with another difficult election. Did he give up? No. He carried on. And then 2016, when he gained Edinburgh Western from the SNP. And he didn't stop there either. And as you heard from others, this year, when he won, didn't just win, he won by almost 10,000 votes, the highest number of votes of any MSP in the history of the Scottish Parliament. That's the kind of person that we've got as our leader from today. And I'm so excited for my friend, but also for my party in terms of what we can do now with Alex Cole-Hamilton at our helm. So let's get to it. Thank you.
So, Edinburgh's my home, it's my constituency, I love it. But there's another place in Scotland that I love, and where we have representation. We have lots of it, and that's in the Highlands, in Ross and Cromarty. And about 2 years ago, I was up there and I'd been told about this new candidate that we might have in the Scottish election, and that she was very impressive. And I thought, I want to meet her and see what she's like. So I went for coffee in Dingwall. And I was taken aback by the commitment, the personality, and the determination to win Caithness, Sutherland and Ross in the Scottish Parliament. Now, Molly Nolan ran a fantastic campaign. Now, she narrowly lost then, but all the work that went in helped us secure those 2 wins for Colin and for Jill that Kevin just talked about. And for Molly, it's just the beginning, because Molly Nolan is also the future of our party. And so it gives me great pleasure to welcome all the way from Dingwall today, Molly Nolan.
Now, Christine's talked about her love for the Highlands, and that's what I want to talk to you about today, because it's a topic that's, well, if you've ever heard me speak before, something very, very close to my heart. So last week, I was up on the north coast of Scotland, and I spoke to a teacher, and we got to talking about depopulation in the area. And she said, when the MacLeod family left with their children, that was a really dark time for the community. overnight the school roll dropped by a quarter. Now, you'd be forgiven for thinking that that sort of spectre of depopulation was a 19th century drama that we've long left behind, but the reality for parts of our country in 2021 is just that. Now, the Scottish Liberal Democrats have long stood up for Scotland's most remote and rural communities. You heard from Jack earlier, and we've got Colin here today. There's many more, and we've built upon success after success in those areas. And in many ways, as that teacher could attest to me, our role, our work there has never been more important. The SNP, believe it or not, has been in power in this country since I was 9 years old. And in my lifetime, my generation has seen the gap between urban and rural Scotland grow ever wider. The pervasive centralisation of our current Scottish government has hollowed out our local authorities, weakened our local development capabilities, and moved vital healthcare services further away from the communities that need them. It's decayed our transport network, and it has centralised jobs. Now, such short-sighted decisions have ramifications for the entire country, but in our rural areas, it's been manifested in communities literally melting away. Over the next decade, the population of Caithness, Scotland's most northerly mainland county, is predicted to shrink by 9%. In Sutherland, over 7%, in the Outer Hebrides, over 6%. In my own area, we are expected to see depopulation of 4.4% in under 10 years. These are devastating figures, and they are not confined to the Highlands and Islands. From Inverclyde to Aberdeenshire, people are moving away, moving into the cities in droves. Now, this should concern all of us. Scotland will only reach its full potential if the sum of its parts, rural and urban, can work together in harmony and benefit equally. Inequality between regions affects all of us. We will only meet our climate change targets, for example, if every part of the country is empowered to do so. That cannot happen while our government allows crippling depopulation to take hold across rural Scotland, with young people forced to leave just to find work or semi-affordable housing. To fix this imbalance, we need to get radical. We have to reject the inflexible top-down governance that has given Scotland the dubious claim to being one of the most centralised countries in Europe. We have to decentralise power and rethink our local government structures, reforming our oversized local authorities to bring decision-making closer to the people it affects. And we have to reverse the poor economic decisions of the past decade, reintroduce local enterprise boards, and stimulate truly regional development. Devolution is a process, not an event, and if the past 14 years have shown us anything, it's that our collective journey is far from over. Scottish Liberal Democrats know that we have a fight on our hands. These changes, as crucial as they are, will require a fundamental shift in our national mindset, one that the Scottish Government has been unwilling or possibly unable to engage with. But taking power away from Edinburgh and dispersing it throughout Scotland is the right thing to do if we are to achieve a just, fair and liberal Scotland for every person in every region. We owe it to the fragile communities with only a handful of children left in the local primary school, but we also owe it to Scotland at large. We are the sum of our parts, and if rural Scotland succeeds, we all succeed. It's for the Liberal Democrats to make that case, to bring our country together, not just through words, but through actions. That work has already begun, has been attested here today, and I welcome all who wish to get involved and make that a reality to join us on this journey. Thank you.
I'm nearly finished today. I don't mean generally. But there is one thing I would like to do before we move on to our penultimate speaker, and that's, we've talked a lot about the future today, and we will talk a lot more about the future. But I sometimes think we forget that we might not have had a future if it hadn't been for the past 10 years and the work that Willie Rennie has put in for this party. I'm sure we'll get a chance at conference to do a more formal thank you, but I just wanted to put it on record that I know that we all appreciate it and we all will miss him. But we come now to our penultimate speaker, and I think you'll agree with me that what we've heard so far is reassuring and inspiring for the future of our party and where Alex can take us. But there's one last person to introduce, who's someone that probably most of you don't know and haven't met. I have the privilege of knowing. I met her first in my general election campaign in 2019. She worked hard in the Scottish election campaign this year, and she's been working in my office as an intern for the past month. She has huge potential. She works hard for this party. And she is the future, like Jack and Molly and all of you, that we all believe in and represent the Scotland that we all want to see. So here to introduce our new leader is, from Edinburgh, Maddie Planche.
There has always been an assumption that young people do not care enough about politics. It doesn't take much to look around today and realise you couldn't be further away from the truth. I'm the third young person you've heard from today. Young people, just like the rest of society, are worried. We're worried about the future of our planet, worried about whether we're being treated equally to our peers, worried about whether we'll get a stable job or a house. We're frustrated about a lack of meaningful action on all of these issues, but that doesn't mean we don't care. We're constantly watching a world in which progress is not happening fast enough, and we cannot wait to jump up and create it ourselves. So we march for it, we campaign for it, we volunteer for it. That's why I first got involved in politics, and it's what brought me to the Liberal Democrats. As a party, we do not create policies simply for the sake of being palatable. What underpins our liberalism is the belief that everyone should have the freedom and choice to make in life what they want of it, but they are not always given the right opportunities in which to do so. We fight tooth and nail for this belief, for progress. It's why we're the party best placed to get it. When I first did get involved at 18, like Christine mentioned, I didn't quite know what to expect. I was worried that people wouldn't listen to me properly or take me seriously enough because of my lack of age and experience. I was pleasantly surprised as I quickly found people welcomed my perspective and were vocal they did so. One of these people was Alex Cole-Hamilton. For those that have not met Alex, Alex is focused and enthusiastic to everybody he speaks to. From my experience with him, unlike some politicians, Alex does not go out talking to people because he wants to win votes. Alex goes out talking to people because he loves it. It's why he does it so much, which you'll be well aware of if you live in Edinburgh West. In fact, a common reaction to us when people answer their door to us is, "Oh, it's you again." Once, someone even told me that they'd seen Alex around so much that he'd even started appearing in their dreams. Take of that what you will. Alex will listen as attentively to someone who is pleased to see him, which is often the case, and to someone who is annoyed to see him, which is occasionally the case, especially if you accidentally interrupt their tea. He's always eager to find out how people think politicians could be doing a better job. What defines Alex is his belief in people, which is second to none. The belief in people to be extraordinary, to create a better society and a better world if, crucially, given the right opportunities in which to do so. Now, there is no shying away from the fact that as a party we have a huge challenge ahead of us. And perhaps as a country we face an even greater one. We need someone at the helm who has spent their whole career working for progress. Someone that will prioritise progress above all else. Someone not afraid to fight for it. But most importantly, someone that will do so with an unwavering focus on what it is that matters the most. The people that need that progress. It gives me the greatest pleasure to introduce that someone to the stage. Everyone, our new leader of the Scottish Liberal Democrats, Alex Cole-Hamilton.
Thank you, Maddie. Thank you, Maddie. Maddie Planche, what an amazing speech. Maddie Planche was absolutely part of the secret of our success here in West Edinburgh in May. Every day throughout that campaign, rain or shine, Maddie was there on the doors with me. And she is just part of a bright generation of new candidates coming through our party. You've heard some of them today. They are crackling with new talent. They give me such inspiration, and they should give us all such hope. It is amazing to see you all. It's wonderful to see you all in 3 dimensions. And nobody's on mute. That's a really good start, obviously. There is one person I would like to single out right now, and that is Willie Rennie. When the results started coming through on the night of the Scottish general election, it was clear, despite polls suggesting that we could have been wiped out in mainland Scotland, Willie Rennie taught the meaning of the word fortress to the people of Scotland. With record-breaking results across our seats, he has given us, confounded any expectations of our extinction. Willie, your legacy is as important as it is substantial. Because of you, children have a fighting chance of being able to get the mental health treatment that they need in time. Because of you, vulnerable families have access to state-funded childcare. And because of you, governments will never again be able to do business with companies and countries without checking their human rights record first. It is a pleasure to have served alongside you. You are one of my best friends. And you have raised the standard of public debate, and with one of the most recognisable smiles in Scottish politics, you have carried the affection of the public along with you. I am so proud to call you and Janet. Still so much to learn from you, and I am delighted that you are going to be helping me to shape that liberal society beside me in the Scottish Parliament. Willie Rennie. Bobby Kennedy said, "Fear not the path of truth for the lack of people standing on it." And we as Liberals know what that feels like. It has felt like a very lonely road sometimes in Scotland for Liberal Democrats. And we have suffered setbacks. We have had to work hard to regain trust and belief in the people that we seek to serve. But the one thing that has sustained us on that road is ironically the one thing that the public of Scotland are now crying out for, and that is hope. After everything we have been through, Scotland needs new hope right now. Whisper it, but you've heard it here today. There is a sense of optimism in our party that we might have turned a corner, that there might be something better coming over the horizon, and my goodness, couldn't the people of Scotland do with a bit of that right now? Far from being content to build back to where we were before the pandemic, things were rubbish in Scotland before the pandemic for many, many people and for many, many reasons. But people want us to succeed and reach for something better, to build back better. And because going back to the way things were cannot be the limit of our ambition. They want us to reach for a better Scotland. So let's reach for that Scotland. Reach for a Scotland of new hope for young people so that they can get the best education in the world. They can get the job of their choosing, and they can get onto the housing ladder if they wish, no matter where they come from. Let's reach for a Scotland with new hope in the fight against climate change, so we drive down our reliance on fossil fuels and we ramp up our renewable potential. And let's reach for a new Scotland with new hope for business big and small, so we can leverage inward investment and build the economy that we need to deliver the standard of public services that our people deserve and that they are crying out for. We have that Scotland within our reach, and Liberal Democrats will drive that vision with energy and with confidence. I am proud, beyond words, to stand before you as your new leader of the Scottish Liberal Democrats, and I tell you, the journey towards that hope starts today. I want to tell you about what drives me, what gets me out of bed in the morning, why I'm in politics and why I want to make a difference. If there are 3 words more important than any others for me, for humans to know, to be true and understand about themselves, then they are these. You are loved. When Stephen Lawrence lay dying in the street, bleeding out from knife wounds he'd received in a racist knife attack, he was cradled by a passerby called Louise Taff. And as he slipped away, she whispered to him over and over again until he died in her arms those words, "You are loved." What an amazing act of compassion. I am in politics. I want to make a difference because I have met too many children who, in the care of this state, will never understand the meaning of those words or know them to be true. Like the little boy I met in a care home who, by the age of 8, had 37 failed foster and residential care placements. Stories like his keep me awake at night. But I'm also in politics because people matter to me. Like all Lib Dems, I am thrilled and inspired by the sense of what the word community can mean. When COVID hit, people didn't just padlock their doors and hunker down and lock themselves away. They came out in their hundreds and in their thousands to volunteer at test centres, to deliver food to people who were in isolation, and just to run errands for vulnerable neighbours. That is the community I recognise, because our movement is steeped in an understanding of what community can mean. Neighbours looking out for neighbours, sharing with each other, caring for each other. Those values are just as important in the streets and towns of Scotland as they are in the rest of the world and in this global village. And everywhere I see people starting to remember that about our party. I see people starting to remember that if they back the Liberal Democrats, if they put their trust in us, that then they can get a return on investment that is good for them and it's good for their people around them. And we know as Liberal Democrats, when we work, that 1,000 seemingly tiny acts of public service can move a mountain of public opinion. And I see evidence of that renewed growth in our party and success everywhere I look. Now, people have said to me since May that the Liberal Democrats are a spent force beyond the reach of our parliamentary constituency. To them I say, there is somebody I would like you to meet. Allow me to introduce the newly elected councillor for Inverness West, Colin Aitken. Thank you so much, Colin. You've given us such inspiration and pride. Jill Tilt, who's our other newly elected Highland councillor, can't be with us today. But in a lot of ways, her story is even more miraculous. From just 3% and last place in 2017, she went on to top the poll last week when nobody saw her coming. And between them, they broke records, because it was the first time in our party's history that we have gained 2 council by-election victories on the same day. Liberal Democrats in rural communities, in urban communities, far beyond the reach of our parliamentary constituencies, are winning again, and we are doing so emphatically. I like obscure words. I like unusual words. Arguably, I use them too often and too many of them, but I love them. And my favourite unusual word describes this party to a T. That word comes from the name of a character in a book by Voltaire, and that word is Panglossian. And effectively, it means relentlessly optimistic in the face of overwhelming odds. That is us. That is us. Liberal Democrats look for the best in things. We look for the best in the people and the communities we serve. And if We see stuff that's broken, we try to fix it, or we fight for reform to change the narrative about why it's broken in the first place. And when we talk about things that are broken and needing fixed by Liberal Democrats, we are in a target-rich environment. The measure of effective government is in the delivery of public services. Never more is that true than at time of international crisis. When the pandemic hit, of course, the SNP had to recalibrate, reassess priorities, but they also used that as an opportunity to set aside the hard stuff. Everywhere you look, there are warning lights blinking on the dashboard of public policy. In the educational attainment gap, in the record-long mental health waits, in the missed climate targets, in GRA reform, in the threadbare state of our police force, patients clutching letters in pain, telling them that they would be treated in 12 weeks when there isn't a hope of them being seen in 50. And yet, the SNP used the emergency to defer action on these problems of public policy that they were unequal to. And yet still, despite all of that, and on the eve of a deadly second wave, the First Minister, in her programme for government, found time to put in the legislative programme a bill about the mechanics of another independence referendum. My friends, there is a muscle memory to the politics of Scotland right now. At every election, every vote is cast is being characterised as either a vote as a mandate for a second referendum or the only means of stopping one. That has become the full extent of public debate in this country, and our citizens are suffering because of it. We are caught between a clash of nationalisms. The nationalism of the SNP, of course, but also the Brexit nationalism of the Conservative, Boris Johnson's Conservative Party. We are a people trapped between flags, between politicians who mythologise and pine for ancient nations and borders, just at a time when the world is changing and demands international cooperation for the things that really, really matter to us. And so, if this boils down to a choice between two nationalisms, then everybody loses. And so I say enough. Liberals have been fighting for a better Britain for centuries, and we have made big strides in that regard. Across the country, we have fought together to build a liberal society, a federal, united Britain, walking in step with our European neighbours and responsible and aware of its responsibilities to the global stage. But federalism, which we all want to see, will only happen if we make devolution an attractive prospect to the rest of the people in these islands. Right now it isn't. Far from looking north and thinking we could do with some of that for our part of the world, our neighbours to the south see a nation with the worst drug crisis in the world, with child poverty that has cascaded through the generations. And they also see a nation that is utterly divided. Scotland is a brilliant and beautiful country to live. It's a dynamic country to live. Its people are proud and its history is magnificent. But over recent times we have become subdued by the collapse of industry, decline of health, by the collapse of industry and the decline of health and ministerial disinterest and that clash of nationalisms I described. No wonder people are in need of hope right now. Well, here we are. It's time that we as a party start reminding people what we can do for them, that we are the solution to the problem that they have identified, because I am tired of fighting elections on the basis of who we are not. Because if we can inspire people again, get them to trust us again, to believe in us again, as we have done on the ground on which we stand here in West Edinburgh, where they came to us in record numbers, then we can do it across Scotland. But in order to do that, we need to tell them what we're for. And we've not been very good at that in recent years, partly because we've been squeezed out of the narrative, but now more than ever the world needs liberals. So here is what we're for. If you want a party that is dedicated to fighting the climate emergency with ferocity, but without the baggage of nationalism, come with us. If you want a Scotland that makes things again and captures the imagination of the world through its innovation and its industry, come with us. If you want a Scotland that delivers the best education in the world for our young people, that values its carers and the people they care for, come with us. If you care about human rights, if you want a party that will fight for human rights, both abroad and at home, whether that's offering safe harbour to the women of Kabul or to protecting young people from gay conversion therapy, come with us. If you are affected in any way by the mental health catastrophe that is happening in our country, come with us. And if you want a party that will push back against state intrusion in your life or the creep of big centralising government, come with us. Come with us, and I promise you that Liberal Democrats in the villages and towns of Scotland will teach you the meaning of the word hope once again. Now, there are people who say that I can't be part of Scotland's future because of where I am from. It's true. But my story is common to many people in this great country. I was born among the new towns of Greater London to a Canadian mother and a Welsh father. I learned to walk and to write in the hills of Lancashire. I sat my first exams in a state school gym hall in St Andrews. My backstory stretches the length of the M6 corridor, but my heart beats here. My name is Alex Cole Hamilton. I am from many different places, but I am proud to stand before you as a Scot, as a Liberal, and as the leader of our party. My friends, tonight we turn a new page in the history of the Scottish Liberal Democrats, and by so doing we look forward with new hope and brimming confidence to a new chapter in the future of our country. Thank you very much. Oh, amazing. You want me to? We're in a bubble. It's fine. Well,